Hello, hello, hello. It is December 15th, 2023, and tonight we're going to be talking about another essential part of your productivity system, and that's your note taking. Because when you take good notes, you know what notes you're taking, you can move your business, your organization, your team, yourself forward because it's intentional. And I'm going to focus in one specific area tonight. I'm going to focus around taking notes for work or business because on this show, we focus on helping purposeful professionals achieve their goal. So that's what we want to do tonight. And I'm going to get myself together here and just welcome you all to the live stream. My name is Florence. Welcome. Glad to have you here. I want to say welcome to the live tribe. Those of you who are in the chat already commenting and greeting, welcome to the show. Those who are watching who may not be commenting because you're otherwise occupied with family and work and anything else, being in the gym, welcome to the show. Love having you here. And for those who are watching the replay, stay to the end. Don't close out early. This is important information because it definitely, I'll show you some things on screen today that hopefully you'll take away and be able to apply in your own practices. Productivity is a practice. There's not a end to it. You just simply iterate and get better. And we're talking tonight about how to level up our note taking for 2024 and above. Our first two shows were about your calendar and your task manager. Well, your note taking will help you get information into those two parts of your system, especially when we're talking about taking notes related to work and business. And of course, business is work, but depending on where you are, if you're in a corporate role or you're an employee somewhere versus running your own business, then that's the distinction. And in fact, if you are doing volunteer work, you are an executive in a volunteer organization. That is a level of work, though it is not paid work. It's volunteer work. Nonetheless, it is work, and taking notes is essential there as it is every place else. So let's just real quick say hello to a few folks who are in the building with us. Welcome, Frank Jackson, moderator, and also my very best friend in the world. Thank you for being here serving the community. And hello, Roy. Glad to have you in the building with us. I am wanting you to chime in and give us some good feedback tonight. I think you're going to enjoy this. And then our other moderator and designer extraordinaire, the emotional CEO, who is here. And happy live tribe, Purposeful People. Yes, Purposeful People. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to go ahead and hop right into 4 questions I'm going to answer tonight. The first question is, what do I take notes on? You know, taking notes. Well, what am I taking notes about? The second one is, what notes do I take? Then what do I use to take those notes with? The third is, how do I organize all these notes once I've taken them? And the last one is, how do I consolidate my notes if I've got them scattered everywhere? I use multiple ways of taking notes, and I need to get them organized so that I can use them and they're meaningful and productive for me. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. So the first one is, what notes do I take? What notes do I take? Well, when you're in business, you're going to take specific notes in specific situations. And I'm going to do something a little different here tonight. And hopefully this will work. Hopefully it will work. And I'm going to share my screen and use a tool. This is a note-taking app called OneNote. It's a Microsoft product. It's been around since 2003. I'm not saying you have to use this. I'm just using it as an example of things that you can do so that you can see it happening and maybe start to think about how you could use your own system. And I will say, Or what notes do I take? First of all, if you're in business, you're in an organization, you're having scheduled meetings. You're meeting with people, with teams, with groups, with one-on-ones all the time. You're taking notes in those scheduled meetings. But then my day, many times I have yesterday, I had 6 unscheduled conversations that I had to capture notes in. So we also have these unscheduled conversations that come up. We may call them calls or meetings or whatever, but we're talking with some people, one or more. They weren't scheduled, but yet we need to have the conversations. We also are watching events and webinars, uh, reading material. And so we're grabbing ideas and and doing screen grabs. Those are notes also. So if you're getting ideas about how to do something or what to do, grabbing those notes and writing them down. Another one is we get PDFs. I get PDFs all the time. Notes on those PDFs. What do you want to say? What pages you want to go to? What do you want to highlight? What do you want to apply in your own business? So marking up PDFs is another type of note taking. And then links and resources. You'll see that later where I use links and resources heavily in my digital system that I use to make sure that I have them. So this is some of the stuff you're taking notes about, right? And then drafts of articles, you're writing ideas down or drafts of articles. Example, when I am preparing for the live stream, I draft my talk in my note-taking app. I do the research, I grab links, I do resources, I get PDFs. I put all of that in a note so that I can then structure it the way I want it to be. To include ideas for video titles, drafts of video descriptions, anything that I'm going to use. So, drafts of various types is another thing that you're going to take notes on. And there are many others. I just wanted to highlight some to give you an idea of the types of things you want to take notes on, the types of scenarios where note taking is essential when you're talking about business and work. Okay? This is not brain dumping. Brain dumping is a type of note, but this is not brain dumping. This is gathering really, and we're going to get into what information to get to. So next, we're going to talk about, do I take notes on paper or in an app? This is the big question it seems that many people struggle with. And so if you, in some of this, I'm going to say it depends on, the answer really depends on you. That's the short answer. The answer depends on you. There are, however, some specific considerations. And as you're thinking about how do I level up my 2024 and beyond in note taking, start to consider those things that are very specific to you. So, what do we want to talk about here? When to use paper and when to use an app. And then the third one is we're going to talk about when to use paper in a non-paper scenario. That one is a little tongue twister and a brain twister, but I'll explain. So when do I use paper? Because I actually use both. I use paper and I use digital. And I will walk you through when I use each and then give you some ideas and you're looking at them. One is when you're in an in-person meeting and you want to convey that you're intentionally focused on someone. If you're in a conference room or at a coffee shop or in your office or wherever, and you're meeting with people, it's much less of a barrier to them listening and thinking and understanding that you're focused on them and that you're being intentional if you're taking paper notes as opposed to electronic. We still, as a society, have not quite got to the place where when we see someone using a device, we don't think that they're taking notes and focused on us. We think that they're distracted and doing something else, looking at email if you were talking business. Oftentimes, that's what people are thinking about. I have I run workshops, and one of our rules of workshops is when you come on, number one, we do this virtually. This is not in person, but to give you an example, our rules, our protocol are A, cameras are on for everyone. B, email is turned off, Teams is turned off, chat is turned off, Slack is turned off, social media is turned off, and you're completely focused on what's happening in the workshop and engaging. Well, that kind of focus is really also important when you're in an in person meeting. So that's a great time to use paper. Another great time is when the keyboard or device will distract you. You may not be in a one on one in person or in a group setting in person, but using the device will distract you. When I'm in meetings and I really have to focus and concentrate and grasp the material, I absolutely pick up pen and paper. I don't try to take the notes using any digital tools I have, and I have a bunch of them. I have iPads and laptops and keyboards and all kind of stuff, but I absolutely just go back to paper. When you're not connected to the internet, that one is a little obvious, but if you're not connected to the internet, using paper is a great time to take notes. And then the last one is simply sometimes we're simply more comfortable with paper. Our brain operates with paper, and frankly, there is something that happens with our understanding when we see in our own handwriting what we're thinking. Those are times to use paper. If you're getting value out of what I'm sharing with you, let me know. Put a yes in the chat, and let me know. And also, are any of these practices that you follow? Are these times when you use paper for note taking, or are there other times that I'm not sharing that you use paper for note taking? Let me know. I'd love to get your feedback on that. So if you use paper in these scenarios, when do you use an app? This is almost the opposite of the other. But when you are very accustomed to using an app for note taking, it's very comfortable for you, it's your default. Notice I'm not saying a specific app, I'm just saying when you use an app, whether it's on a computer, a tablet, a phone, it doesn't matter. But if you're very accustomed to using an app for note taking, and you have your note taking structured to be effective, it's a great time to use an app. When you're fast on the device, if you're slow and you're trying to interact with people and get business done or get a project moving forward or answer questions or give information, if the device is slowing you down, that's not the time to use an app. If you've got to fiddle and fumble and figure out what key to pick and what option to use, it's not the time to use a digital tool for your note taking. The last one is when you have made a decision on which app you're going to use. If you are consistently changing apps, so you've got notes spread out in 3, 4, 5 different apps, and you don't have a way, we're going to talk about this later, a way to consolidate it all, you've made a decision. I'm going to commit to whatever it is, Apple Notes, Microsoft OneNote, Notion, whatever tool, MemNote, whatever app you've decided that you're going to use, and you're going to stick to it and learn how to use the features and level up your skills in that app. That's a great time to use an app for your note taking. Okay? So what I said, paper in a non-paper world. What in the world does that mean? That means you take your notes on paper, but then you get them into your app. This is how I do it. When I take notes on paper, I will take my phone and scan the page in and put that scanned page into my note-taking app. OneNote will accept in all kind of files. For example, Notion will accept in all kind of files. Apple Notes will accept in PDFs and PNGs and other types of files, primarily PDFs, PNGs, JPEGs in Apple Notes, I would say. Google Keep, the same thing. So if you are writing on paper and you still want to capture that, this is the non-paper world. So it combines your paper and your digital together. It's very powerful to do that, especially these apps today that will turn those handwritten notes so that the app can read them and you're not retyping. Or if you're using an app that will then take the handwritten notes and turn them into typed text. There are a couple that do that. So those are times when I say paper in a non-paper world, that's what I mean. It's taking whatever you've used on paper and putting it into your digital application, which is absolutely doable and possible and effective. So let's move on to number 3. And that is, now that you've figured out what notes you're going to take, you know where you're going to take the notes, whether you're going to use paper, you're going to use digital, or you're going to combine them. How do you organize that? Whatever tool you use, if it's paper, I want to talk about this in a multitude of ways. If it's paper, I submit that you've got to figure out a way to index those paper notes. If you're using a notebook, I'll share this one with you. You'll see I have multiple notebooks, so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. Let's see, did I do that? Yeah. So I hope you can see this a little bit. I've got a page here that's just an index, and all it is whatever the title of the page is and the page number in the notebook. That's a paper index. This is a simple way that you can organize your notes and go back to them. What I do in my planner, this planner here, is I have a blank page for every month, and I've decided in 2024 I'm going to use that monthly blank page for that index for the month so that I have a summary and I can get to what I need to in paper real quick. So that's how you can organize your paper-based notes. In your notebooks, page numbers, index pages at the beginning or at the end of the notebook, and you just list them out. Then you don't have to fill and flip through the pages to figure out where the note is. You go to your index and you see an entry that tells you where the note is. However, there are times when you want to do this electronically. I'm going to walk you through how I've set this up as an example, and I will tell you this is almost an exact duplicate of the way I do my actual system, but this is a demo. But you need to set up a routine, either daily or weekly, for when you're going to organize your notes. Especially if you're using paper, but a regular time when you say, I'm going to pull all this stuff together, I'm going to make sure it's named properly, I'm going to make sure it's where it needs to be, where I expect to see it, where it'll surface again. And then if you're using an app, absolutely invest the time to learn the skills to organize the app if you're using one. So I'm going to use this opportunity to give you an example of this OneNote organization structure solely for the purpose of getting you to think, what am I using and how do I organize it? So the first thing you'll see, this is a notebook, so it's one file, and it has these things called sections over here. I have 4 sections: projects, areas, resources, and archive. If you've never heard of a gentleman by the name of Tiago Forte, please go look him up. This is his system, and it's simple, and it is so easy to use. I shared that I was going back and reorganizing everything back into this way. But projects, and then I've got this section underneath that area called projects. But I've also got other sections underneath areas. DE is my company, and so administration stuff, content marketing stuff, Equip Institute stuff. Then I've got some things down here: family, pet, ministry, health, whatever those areas are of your life where you can keep notes. Then I've got resources in here, like if I have a brand kit, my logo, my end card, whatever those those resources may be. It may be a bunch of links for you. I have a page in my note-taking system that simply links to all kinds of things. I don't use the browser because my browsers change. I just use a page in my note-taking system. And then archive is when you're through with something and you're not sure you're ready to leave it, throw it in archive and just leave it there. That's an easy way to think about this. So, organization system, these 4 areas will work great. Learning the tools, how you use it. If you're using OneNote, this is called a section group. This colored part is called a section. This part over here is called an index. And then on the far right here is the actual note. At the top is the title of the note. I have done videos that talked about the importance of titling your notes. Go watch those videos. For this, I'm using it as a way to guide me through today's conversation. So these are notes that I'm using. If you're getting value, let me know. Hit the thumbs up button out there. And I've got links in the description that you can use if you use paper or other tools. And by the way, if you don't have a note-taking system in your application and you're looking for one, you could start with OneNote. You can get a free version and play with it and see how it works for you. If you want to ask me questions and spend 15 minutes talking about what you got going on, you can hit me up at florencedonald.live. And of course, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Would love to have you a part of the community. So, organizing is really just that simple. The other part of organizing, however, is making sure that you consider things that are important to you. I didn't put it here, but really think about how your brain works. Think about how you think about information. What would you think of when you see a certain information? Do you associate it with date? Do you associate it with names? Do you associate it with the area of your life? What do you associate information? How do you associate information? For me, everything in my life falls into a handful of categories. If it's outside of that, I can guarantee you I'm never going to think about it. And they are very consistent. So just know that. And all of my projects fall into one of these areas in my life, whether it's the business, whether it's ministry, my home, my family, those kinds of things. So just know how you think about your information when you're looking to how do I organize all these notes that I take. We're talking about business. You do the same thing. If you're in business, if you've got employees, if you've got freelancers, if you've got board members that you work with, committee members that you work with, think about how you break that down so that in business or in work, you got some order to how you put your notes together. Okay? The last piece is consolidating notes now that you've got them. So I'm going to tell on myself. And hopefully somebody out there can relate. And I'm going to come back. We're going to chop it up and have some conversation a little bit. I take notes on paper, as I shared with you. I use this book, which you should be used to seeing now. If you come to the channel, I almost always pull it out because I use it. But this is one book. I actually have a couple of these little books in here as well. And that's because the way I don't know what you call it, but I need something different. I get bored and then it's like, okay, I need something different. But literally the exact same paper that's in this book, it's in this book. I love this paper, so I keep using these notebooks with this paper in it. But if you have notes in different notebooks, you've got some notes in a digital system, you've got notes in 2 or 3 digital applications, Google Keep, Google Docs, OneNote, Evernote, Notion, Apple Notes. Am I talking to anybody out there? You've got to get them all into one place. So how do you do that? Number one, make a decision first that you're going to consolidate all that stuff. Make the decision. Because if you don't make the decision, you'll be you won't get it done. You won't even start. When you start to organize your information, use that time to purge old and outdated notes. So don't organize something that you know you don't need. Get rid of it. Cut it down. Create a workflow to process your paper and digital notes. Let me give you an example of how I do this. If I am, not if, I actually do this. So every day I create what I call a daily note. And it's just a blank page. I'll just create a page and I'll call it daily note and I'll give it a date. And this page in my system is set up a very specific way. And that is, I put my schedule and I put notes over here and I put new to-dos down below my schedule. Now that's my page is set up the same way every day. Anything that's scheduled goes here, and I do the same thing on paper. The paper page is set up the same way. Notes are, if I had unscheduled meetings or conversations with people, I'm grabbing that. Who was it? What time? What are the key points? What are the key decisions? What are the key takeaways? Which I'll come back to. All right. Action items, things that I have to do and things that the other people I've talked to have agreed to do. I want to capture those on that day. That's how I lay my day out. So decide how you're going to lay it out. This works regardless of what system you use. You can do this in any system that you use, paper or digital. So I talked about some layouts. I'm going to give you a couple of examples here of what this could look like. If it's just me and I'm talking with someone, I'll just write insights and action items. I just simply do it on my daily note page. That's where my daily note page is insights, action items. You could, same thing. If I'm in a meeting and it's just an internal team, or it's solely an internal team, everybody is in this, we're working together, whether it's a committee I'm on, a board I'm on, my team here with the Equip Institute, a ministry team I'm on, everybody is internal. Then I like to structure it somewhat like this. Always who's there, the date, the time, what the topics are, how much time each person has, who's going to facilitate that, and then we take notes, action items, who's assigned to, and when it's due. Here's an example, and decisions are important. What decisions were made and who's the owner of the decision. Here is an example of resources on a notes page. A link to a YouTube channel, image of my logo in here, a link to another page in the note. That is a way to use resources where you can link things together. Go out to a website, go to a document, insert a document in your note page. If I'm working with an external team and there are multiple teams, here's an example of how you can structure that. If you're talking to a partner, now when I say partner, it's another company or organization that you're doing work with and you've decided to partner with them. You've got some kind of more formal arrangement with them and you're taking something to market or you're resolving a problem, something together. And then you're working with maybe an outside marketing team or your operations team. But all of these teams need to see what the others are covering and what they're talking about. So here's a way to do that. You just make a little grid. Again, you can do this on paper, but it kind of doesn't work if you do it on paper when you're talking with other people. And you let everyone see what's happening and what action items. And again, capturing decisions in our owner and any resources that are needed. Simple ways to do this. If you're capturing all of these resources, at some point you're going to go into a digital system because it's really difficult to capture all of those resources on paper. But everything else, you could just draw a box or just write on different parts of the paper, take a picture of it, and send the picture to everybody. None of this is requires any special skills. It's just lay it out and write it up. That's how, these are some examples of how you would do that. Okay. And you can even use, this is really truly my way of doing it just when it's just me. My schedule, action items, notes, and sometimes I'll put that decision box down here. But if I'm with other people and I'm meeting with anyone else one on one or something, then I use one of these formats depending on what it is. Okay. If you have questions, go ahead and put your questions in chat. Let me know what they are. And I'm going to go ahead and come over here and talk to some of y'all and see what you got going on. Good evening, Mr. Walter Strong. You're going live here in about an hour, so I'm looking forward to seeing you. Natalie, thank you. Saying this is a great help. I appreciate you sharing that this is a great help. James Hicks, good to see you, friend. Lord have mercy, she got Microsoft OneNote open. I started using OneNote when OneNote first came out. And a little secret, I am super duper good with OneNote. Like the things I do with OneNote, you probably wouldn't believe that you could do. I have developed massive systems using OneNote at the corporate level. It is, I'll be really, really happy when Microsoft drops Loop in it. I'll be so happy when Microsoft drops Loop in it. Thank you, Natalie, for saying value added. And thank you, Walter, for saying great value. And yes, Remarkable is a digital. It's one of those non-paper in a paper, like you can use like GoodNotes, Notability, Remarkable, those types of things, where it's a digital note taking and you use whatever your stylus is, your Apple Pencil or whatever your stylus with a Windows Surface notebook, those types of things. You can use it, or you can just use the Remarkable tablet and take notes that way. Well, hello, Miss Denise Jordan. I like the idea of an index in the paper-based notebooks. Yes, it works great. Just grab a notebook, number the pages, take the first few pages, like maybe the first 2 to 4 pages, depending on how many total pages you have in your notebook, and mark them index. And as you write information, just go put it in the index. And when you pick the notebook up, all you've got to do is flip to those first few pages and find the information in there. Okay, let's see. Denise says, I'm needing to organize all my notes. I've got too many notebooks. I have a lot of notebooks. I'm not going to tell you to talk to my brother, because he would tell you how insane I am with how many notebooks I have. It is a whole thing. It's a whole thing in my life. But because I have a very specific system, I can find everything I need to find very quickly. Okay. Hello, I'm talking to you. I'm not sure what part that was. I am not, Walter Strong, I am not screaming at you. I'm probably screaming at myself. You all are funny. But I really know that this part of our system is so valuable because it feeds every other part of our environment. It feeds what we do in terms of getting our action items down. It feeds our calendar when we that schedule part, or when you make a commitment or someone schedules an event that you have to be, you're taking a note about that. And so your source is really this note system, and everything else, your action items, your calendar, everything else spans out from your note-taking system. So if you don't get it under control, the others are going to be more difficult to get under control. So here's the bonus tip for you, and I don't even have an example of it because I didn't put it together, but I've talked about it. I use on my phone, and this will work with. I'm going to give you two ways to make it work. On my phone, I use this little app with this little blue icon here in the corner called Drafts, and it's just a blank page. There's nothing there. But the magic of it is I can send those notes to almost any application that my phone will talk to. I can send it to email, I can send it to text message, I can send it to Google Drive, I can send it to Pages, I can send it to Apple Notes, I can send it to Notion, I can send it to OneNote. So if I am using speech to text, I told you that this application has a really great text transcription. So I'll use speech to text to type out stuff sometimes. I don't have to ever retype that. And I can send it to 4 or 5 different places. And when I'm on certain computers, I will use the web app and I will put the information in the web app. Well, when I get back to my computer, my phone, my iPad, I can again send that content wherever I want it to go, to include all of the applications that I've told you about. If I take a picture on my phone, I can, again, use this. I can send that content wherever I want it to go. So that is how I manage not having to solely work in one application all the time. Drafts is my intermediary to move those notes, those images, those PDFs around to different holding places, and it gets it consolidated. So if I have something in Apple Notes and I want to get it in OneNote, I don't have to retype anything. I don't even have to copy and paste. I just send to. That's all I got to do. That the send to from OneNote to Apple Notes is not Drafts. It's just on my phone, and you use the Apple send to function directly. So learning to use and move your data from one place to the other is the cheat code. It is absolutely a cheat code for you being able to consolidate and find your information. And if you love paper, taking a picture of your paper notes, it will make a big difference, because then you can take your notes the way you love to, and you can still search them, move them around, and work with them. And if you have to send them to someone else to make a presentation or do something with, you don't have to retype it. Just send them your handwritten notes. So I am excited to share this with you all. Okay. Live Tribe, great show. Thank you, Walter. This has been a great pleasure sharing this with you. I have wanted to, and if in 2024 you would love to have me show you more of how you could set up your system and use it using OneNote, let me know. This one I have on here is the free version, so there are some features that I won't be able to show you, but I can talk you through them and show you. But using it's easy. You know, I love Evernote, but my second one that I use all the time is OneNote. I use them both pretty much every day because one is in one environment and one is in the other environment. All right. So that's what we got for y'all this evening. I don't see any questions. I'm looking. I don't see any questions. So if we don't have any questions, we're going to get out of here, y'all. So just want to remind you, next week and the following week, I will not be here, but you will get content from me both weeks. I look forward to seeing you live in January. Good night, everybody.